Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live match reaction show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, it's been a while since I did a watch along, and some said maybe I was the problem as we managed to notch up some wins during my absence. But I guess that theory is out of the window as Liverpool were relentless and hammered West Ham with a 5-2 scoreline. So during the show, I'll give you my thoughts on the match, who stood out in terms of the performances, and what does this mean for our top five quests? So let's talk about the match. We started the game in a very positive manner, and it wasn't a surprise that we got an early goal. The strike came from the man of the hour in Hugo Ekitike. But first, a lovely through ball from Groundberg to find Ekitike in a melee of players. Ekitike uses his instinct as he controls the ball and smashes it low to make it 1-0, and it didn't take long for Liverpool to get the second as Szoboszlai hits a fantastic corner from the left-hand side. And even though Van Dijk was surrounded by 4 or 5 West Ham players, the captain had too much power, climbed high, and headed into the corner to make it 2-0. But West Ham tried to respond with a close opportunity through Suchek. Low cross from the right-hand side. His effort was blocked by Allison. McAllister then had a great chance himself when he was in the middle of the box, but it was blocked by a West Ham defender. For me, probably should have done better. He should have been a bit more quicker in his decision making, but in the end, that didn't matter. As moments later, Mac 10 makes it 3-0 with a lethal finish. Ekitike lays it off, and McAllister pulls the trigger with the half volley where the ball hits the roof of the net. Now, as Liverpool fans, I'm sure we can all agree we suffer from PTSD because we know this in terms of what we've done this season. We're only moments away from conceding and giving the opponent an opportunity to get back into the game, and that's kind of what happened in the second half. Liverpool got caught napping, and Konate clears the ball from the cross, which wasn't a bad clearance at the time, but that ball only goes as far as Diouf, who was completely unmarked, hits a low cross into the danger zone, and Suchek finds himself ahead of the Liverpool defense and taps it in to make it 3-1. Question marks have to be raised in regards to the marking or the defending of the team, as Salah on paper should have been the player marking or close enough to stop any attack coming from El Haj Malik Diouf. Um, but he was in a more central position. And also, I feel like Van Dijk maybe could have done better to deny Suchek with that open shot. It felt like, everything froze or the players were stuck in the mud. So a bit of a bizarre goal to concede in that moment. Gakpo has a great chance as Joe Gomez produces a long throw in that probably just as good enough as a corner kick, but the ball comes to his left foot and he completely miscues it, slices it away from goal. I have to be honest, that was probably one of the worst misses of the season. But I guess he redeems himself as he makes it 4-1 with a low shot finish into the bottom corner. But typical Liverpool, we concede from a set piece a few minutes later as Castellanos heads it in to make it 4-2. What a dirty moment there for Liverpool to concede that goal. Jeremy Frimpong comes on as a sub and, as always, makes an instant impact as he's attacking the right hand side, hits the low cross into the danger zone. But Disasi tries to block it. In the end, he ends up hitting the back of the net with an own goal to give Liverpool a 5-2 lead. And later in the game, a couple of moments from our two young players in Rio Gamoa and Trenioni that could have helped extend the lead. Rio goes on a amazing run on the left hand side, has a shot towards goal, carried away by the keeper in the end. Frimpong has a great run on the right hand side. He produces a low cross to pick out Trenioni, who hits the shot, but unfortunately was leaning back and the ball ended up going over the bar. Should have buried it, but look, overall, and I can't but be pleased with that result. We played much better football. The difference today from other games is that we were ruthless, or should I say, relentless in front of goal. And that's been the theme of our sort of recent form in recent games. We're finishing off our chances. Now, there's never a perfect performance, and we certainly showed frailties again in this fixture. Conceding the 2 goals is something that we need to improve on. And quite frankly, we're not controlling games, especially when we've got the lead against the opponents. So this needs to change. This is more of a mentality or even a tactical sort of plot. I think it's more mental more than anything else, but it's something that needs to be rectified with the coaching staff because we can't be 2-0, 3-0 up and then just concede goals or become a little bit complacent. The energy levels need to be at a constant pace throughout the game. It can't drop off anytime, in my opinion. But look, overall, happy with the win. Unfortunately, the result doesn't change much for us in terms of the Premier League table. Manchester United beat Crystal Palace 2-1 earlier today, and in fact have moved above Aston Villa in third place now. Chelsea had one job and they couldn't do it as they lost 2-1 to Arsenal, who now have a 5-point lead at the top. But our objective hasn't changed as we continue to persist and climb up the table in order to finish in the top five. Now, the question is, has my opinion changed in terms of us finishing in a Champions League position? Slightly, but that's only because we seem to be picking up results, whilst teams like Aston Villa and Chelsea have certainly dropped off in the last few weeks. The only team that have shown any consistency has been Manchester United, and currently on the table, we're only 3 points away from third position. And we actually play Manchester United, Chelsea, and Aston Villa in back-to-back games in May. So those games will determine where we finish uh, at the end of the season. But look, overall, pleased with the result. Um, and hopefully, we can continue to notch up these wins and climb up the table. Now, in terms of standout performances, Ekitike, again, another stellar performance from him. One goal with two assists. Doesn't matter what hairstyle he has, he's always producing the goods. And look, long may it continue because if we didn't have a player like Ekitike in the team, we probably would have been struggling right now. If we relied all our efforts on Isak, we would definitely be in a bit of a predicament. So it's great to see a young striker like Ekitike step up to the plate and deliver. And he's been a breath of fresh air. Whether he's dropping deep or attacking the channels, he can do it all. So he's a really, really top player. And of course, the areas in his games that that can be improved, like his finishing and his heading can certainly be improved on as well. But that will come with more time and more experience. But overall, I've been really impressed with his performance in recent weeks. I thought he was really, really good yesterday as well. Van Dijk, another goal from the captain. That is his 28th goal in the Premier League, and that puts him in joint second with Gary Cahill with the most goals scored from a defender, excluding penalties. And it also looks like we're the new set piece kings, as that's our ninth goal since January, which is the most any team has scored in the league. So take that, Arsenal, because I know that's something they're very proud about. But yeah, it looks like we're taking over in that regards. McAllister, I thought he was really, really good yesterday. What a strike for his goal. He certainly turned the leaf in the last few weeks. And look, long may it continue as we need to we need to step up, but also he needs to step up in the closing stage of the season. So we've only got a couple of months left of fixtures. So hopefully he can step up, continue his good rich of form, and hopefully he can deliver the goods going forward. Frimpong, great to see him on the pitch after returning from injury, and he's such a joy to watch. Whether he's playing right back or right wing, he's playing the same way. He's very direct and he's causing havoc on that right hand side, and that's something we lack on the wings. And the way we play, we need pace on the wings to stretch our opponents and also present another outlet rather than trying to do everything through the central position, which can't always be done and it tends to get closed up quicker than normal. So I feel like that should be our approach going forward. And even when Rio and Gamoa came on, the pitch looked wider with both Rio and Frimpong on the wings. And that highlights something that I've been saying for a while. We need to upgrade on our wingers as we lack pace on the wings. Our wingers, in terms of Gakpo and Salah, they don't take on their fullbacks. They like to come inside, but then even if you have fullbacks with the overlapping runs, it's still not quite the same. So our attackers need to be a bit more direct, pose a different sort of threat. Because when you have a winger that has raw pace and can take on players, they're not attracting more players, and that allows more space in the central position. So we need those type of profiles next season. So hopefully, that can be resolved, and hopefully we can make some additional recruits in the next window. But for now, we keep going as a team, and hopefully we can do well in our upcoming fixtures. Next week we've got Wolves in back-to-back games at the Molineux, so a busy week for the Reds in the coming days. Uh, Before we close the show, just gonna go through some of the comments, and then we can wrap up from there. So, Delusive says, "Relentless, bro. That's a slot in type of thumbnail." When I say relentless, I don't mean the team. I mean more about the finishing. So yeah, relentless finishing. Well, I couldn't add the whole text there, but yeah, I think you get my drift. By the way, the bloody refs are working hard to give this Arsenal title to this league title to Arsenal. Shake my head. Disgusting dive from Cunha. Game's gone. Disgusting Cunha dive. I haven't seen the United highlights, so I'll definitely check that out. But yeah, we can never rely on officiating in this country. I'm sure as Liverpool fans, we should know that. But look, they're doing what they're doing. We just need to focus on our own goals, which is to finish in the Champions League position. That's the big thing for me right now, and hopefully we can do that. Why are Arsenal getting calls all the time was I don't know. I don't know really what to make of that, to be fair. But look, Man City need to do what they need to do in terms of getting the points and applying as much pressure on them as well. So yeah, hopefully that can be done in the coming weeks, and hopefully we'll get a change at the top as well. But for me, I know we're current champions, but I feel like from our point of view, we just need to focus on ourselves and try and get um, into a position where we qualify for Champions League football. That's a must. That's something that we can't even just exclude. It's an essential requirement for us to operate as a club. So we need to get that done and wrap it up as soon as possible. Maguire also flopped, according to Do Steve. He said pretended that he was kicked in the head. Replay shows that's not even close. I did catch that part. I saw that replay. I believe it was the new Larson, Strand Larson, that was challenging him, wasn't it? And yeah, absolutely embarrassing the way he reacted. I'm laughing because it was quite a bit of a shamble. Um, but yeah, that's the other results there. Um, Now before we close the show, there's a couple of rumors. Well, I should say one rumor circulating, which led to me to speak about another player. So the first rumor, which might not be surprised, is that Liverpool have been linked with a move for West Ham's Portuguese midfielder Mateus Fernandes, who was fantastic against us yesterday, by the way. Apparently, if West Ham were to get relegated, he has a relegation clause in his contract for around 25 to 30 million. And apparently, Liverpool hold a serious interest in the player, and he ranks high on the data reports, which sounds like a typical FSG signing. So, my thoughts on that in terms of the price bracket, that is definitely my language right there. 25, 30 million is nothing in this day and age. And the way he played yesterday, of course, I'm just judging it based on one performance. He showed a real maturity in his game. He's only, I think, 23, 24 years of age. But the way he played, he looked like a very experienced player. Great passing range, but more importantly, from a defensive point of view, he had great awareness around him. He was um, aware in terms of players around him, when to make the pass, when to move forward himself. Because there was quite a few times where he passed the ball forward, but then he moved and then he was just doing 1-2 passes with the West Ham midfielders. So he knows when to go forward and when to sit back. His interception was really good. He made quite a few blocks on Sabozla yesterday and showed a sort of a constant sort of press to block any players going through or any passes going through. So I was very, very impressed with his performance, and he's got a very good sort of all-round game. He's a player that's very technical, good passing range, can drive with the ball as well, uh, good distribution. I feel like he's got the complete package there. So I won't suggest that he's the one or anything of that nature, but he's definitely a player that makes the list. So for me, he's someone that we can keep an eye on. And look, I'm not here to to wish any bad on any team, but if West Ham were to get relegated, then that's something we can assess. If the players do have relegation clauses, because that's something we can definitely take advantage of, respectively. So who knows? But he is a player that I feel like can definitely have an impact in our team. Whether he walks into the team, it is a debate. I think there's definitely uncertainty within the club in terms of the futures of Curtis Jones due to his issues with the gaffer and McAllister, who has interest from Real Madrid, if you believe the rumors. So he could be destined to leave in the summer as well. Um, so look, he could definitely be a player that can start the games, but I'll probably see him as more of a third choice midfielder, someone that provides cover but can also come in when needed. But for that price, I'd take him all day long. Even when he was playing for Southampton last season, I was very impressed in terms of what he brought to the table. So yeah, he's a player that's continuing to progress and continuing to develop. And yeah, I feel like he could be an interesting signing, and he probably meets our profile in terms of being at that age group, 23, 24, and then on the verge of reaching another level. And then hopefully, if he was to be a Liverpool player, he could achieve further levels as well. So yeah, definitely someone that I would like us to consider in the next window. Let's have a look at some of the comments there. Bro, Martinez is better than Adam Wharton. Um, in terms of all-round game, that's probably debatable. I think Wharton probably has better passing range and a better technique in terms of distribution. But I, I think between the two, slightly different in terms of the way they play. But I like both players. If those two were to be our signings in the summer, I'd actually be quite pleased with that, to be fair. Wharton, so mid-man, McAllister clears what Wharton. No, I don't agree with that. I know McAllister is having a bad season, but I feel like you know, this season has shown that he's not equipped to sort of manage games and when it comes to physical powers, he's a bit of a weak link for us in that regard. So I don't know. I still pretty much rate Adam Walton. I think he'd be a great addition to our squad. Whether he's a starter automatically as well, it is a debate. I think for me, I'd probably stick with Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. I think Wharton could, be a player that rotates with the two. Szoboszlai for me is untouchable. He needs to start in that midfield, and it's the gaffer's pick who goes to start alongside him. If Wharton was at the club, maybe he goes in that position because he provides a bit of a balance, being left-footed and all that sort of stuff. So who knows? Well, look, I would be happy with Adam Wharton at a club. I don't think McAllister is better than him, but that's just my opinion. Um, Even Hollywood clears Wharton. Did you see his performance against United? I wouldn't say Hollywood clears Wharton. I feel like you're underrating Wharton right now. Wharton's a top quality player, in my opinion. Does Kerr have a future at the club? Oz? I don't know. It's it's a bit of a weird one. A few months ago, I would have said, yeah, definitely. Of course, he has a future at the club. But based on recent weeks and having a bit of a spat with Arsenal on the pitch, I don't know. And we've been being so close to a move to Inter Milan, and we only blocked it because of numbers, and maybe we weren't able to find a replacement in that short period of time. It doesn't look like he does have a long-term future at the club. So it could all depend on who the manager is next season. If it's Arne Slot, then potentially he might be out the door. If it's a new gaffer in terms of maybe a Xabi Alonso, just to put it out there, he might want him to stay. So it's a bit uncertain right now. A few months ago, I probably would have said, of course he has a future, but now I'm a little bit concerned, if I'm being honest. Can he be a reliable midfield rotation for the next decade? In terms of Curtis Johnson, I think so. Decades a bit of a stretch to think that far ahead, because football changes so quickly, and you know who would have thought McAllister would have had a dip this season, for example. So in the next, I have to say, in the next few years, yes, I'd say so. But 10 years is a stretch. I wouldn't really, say someone is destined to be elite for the next 10 years. It doesn't really work out like that. But I feel like what he brings to the table, he's still an effective squad player for us. Um, but let's see. There's rules when it comes to selling homegrown players where ends up being more sort of I think you end up it's maximum profit if you were to sell homegrown players, which helps us in terms of more expenditure on recruiting other players. So, um, But no, so I think Curtis Jones could be a definite reliable option for years to come. But at this stage, it's very hard to see, if he's going to stay or not. Untouchable because he's in your agency client list. In terms of Jones, no, Jones is not in my client list at the moment. We've got Sabozlai, live, we've got Florian Wirtz. We're in discussions with Ekatike, so he's about to join us soon. So and Isak's there as well, but obviously my client is unavailable right now, so we don't talk about it that much. But he's a client of mine as well. Steve DeCon says, "Oh no, he meant Wharton as a reliable midfield rotation." For the next decade, I think for any player, I can't really answer that question because every player is different. And that's not me trying to be on the fence. It's just that I remember when we first signed Joe Allen and Brendan Rodgers was to say, "Oh, this is the midfielder for the next 10 years." So whenever I hear quotes like it, that's the that's the comments that come to my mind. And look how that ended up going. So no, you can't really say someone's going to be the player for the next 10 years because that's not how football works. Um, I can't lie, in regards to Wharton, there are question marks in terms of his injury record. He's been injured quite a bit. Um, so that's a concern, signing a player that has a bit of a history of picking up injuries here and there. That's something we have to be a bit more vigilant and make sure we don't sign players that have that kind of history, unfortunately. So let's see. I feel like Wharton is a player that wants to move, according to rumors, and wants to move back up north as well. I feel like his skill sets will definitely help our team. My question marks will still be, is he the type of DM that we want? Because I see him more as a deep playmaker rather than a player that can be destructive and close up shop against the opponents. In my eyes, that I would rather have the latter, a player that can be an enforcer, but also dictate play and control play as well. So I'm probably asking too much there because that's a bit of a hybrid type of player there. But I think that's what we need in our team. The Welsh Xavi, yes, that was the infamous quote there from Brendan Rodgers. Probably less said the better in regards to Joe Allen there. Um, so in terms of Mateus Fernandez, yes, I would be all in to have him at the club next season. But then there was another player that caught my eye yesterday that I feel like maybe he could be a potential target for us, and that is El Malik Diouf. Now, um, he provided the assist for the first goal for Suchek yesterday, although he was a unmarked player, but nonetheless the technique was really good. He showed me in terms of his skill set that he could be a top left back for years to come. In terms of his profile, he's athletic, aggressive in his overall play, whether it's defending or attacking. And what makes him stand out is his crossing ability. He's got a great left foot. So if Liverpool don't plan on giving Robertson a new contract, I think Duke could be the right profile for us. Of course, the name doesn't help because it gives us bad memories from a former player. But nonetheless, I feel like in terms of what he brings to the table, he can certainly challenge Kirkhead for a starting position in the team, in my opinion. So who knows? If he has a relegation clause as well, that might be something we would look into as well. But yeah, in terms of profile, I think he's the type of profile that we could look towards if Robertson was to leave Liverpool in the summer. Um, Wharton is Charlie Adam 2.0. No, don't say that. I'm not having that. That is too much disrespect on Wharton's name. Then. No, I'm not having that. Not having that at all. But just imagine if you omitted Malik from his official name. El Haj Diouf 2.0. Yeah, I know. I think he probably added that name to make sure that, hey, I'm not that guy. Especially, we were actually linked with him before he joined West Ham because he came from, is it Red Star Belgrade, I think it was? I think that was the team that he joined from. And yeah, we were linked to him before he even made the move to the Premier League. So he's definitely a player that's been on our radar. And he's a player that we've scouted quite a bit. So for me, um, Yeah, he looks a good player. He's got great technique. And he's going to be a player where, we won't expect him to start right away, but if he really impresses in training and does well in actual games as well, he can definitely challenge for a spot. And that's what you need within the squad. You need players to challenge the person that on paper is the main guy in the team. So if Kirk is the main left back, we need to give him competition. It can't just be Kirk is on his own or a player like Robertson, and I'm not saying Robertson in specific, but if we had a player who's towards the latter stage of their career, that's not someone that's going to challenge him much. And I always feel like even for the fullback position, you need energy, you need legs. So having a player like a Diouf and a Kirkes would be a good balance on that left hand side. And the right back position is the same thing for me as well. I feel like that's an area we need to address as well. So yeah, so that's what I think in terms of maybe having a player like Diouf, because I don't feel like we can go out and sign a 50, 60 million pound type left back. Especially with the way Kirk has performed, I feel like he deserves to start next season. And I think he's really improved. He's shown that Bournemouth form like we saw last season, and I feel like he's getting better with more games and more experience under his belt. So yeah, interesting in terms of how the future will look like for Liverpool going forward. El Hadj 2.0. He is he from Senegal too? Yeah, he's a Senegal international. So yeah, he's the main left back there. Nana Osborne has that British tax. Man is mid. This is something that is not. I do feel like a lot of people don't rate him. It's a bit of a mix. It's kind of the same with Curtis Jones. Some people like him, some people hate him. So, um, I feel like whenever I watch Walton, he's always been impressive to me. So maybe I haven't watched him enough this season to give you like a latest sort of opinion on him. But from what I've seen over the years, I feel like he's a very talented player. But that's just my thoughts on him. Um, and that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Dulu Steve for your comments. Appreciate your engagement as always. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, tomorrow we'll be doing a match preview of Liverpool versus Wolves. Sorry, Wolves versus Liverpool, as it's not at Anfield, it will be at the Molineux. So the match preview on Monday, watch along on Tuesday. Wednesday, I will do a transfer related show. Thursday, we will do a match preview of Wolves versus Liverpool again. And that's not an error on my part, it's because that match is an FA Cup tie that takes place on Friday. And I hope to do the Friday watch along for that fixture as well. So, yeah, back to back shows next year. So, yeah, lots of content coming your way. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe. I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.